Thank you very much for loaning me your attention. And I trust that the investment of your time will get a significant return on that investment. Evaluation is something that I'm very, very passionate about and excited about. And so I was excited to get the opportunity to come and share with you guys about evaluation. And tonight we're going to talk about evaluate to elevate. And you will notice that we have the number 2 and not the letters TO. And it's for a significant reason. And the reason is that, ladies and gentlemen, evaluation goes in 2 directions. And you will see more about that as we go through the presentation. And so the overview that we want to take tonight is as follows. We're going to look at the role of the evaluator. We're going to look on who benefit from the evaluation. We're going to dig into a couple of principles of evaluation. And then we're going to start breaking it down into what to say, how you say it, okay? And then we will wrap up. And after that, I'm gathering that we're going to take questions. I did hear that we're going to have a Q&A session after the presentation. Now, I just want to be clear that everyone is hearing me clearly before we move further. Everyone is hearing me clearly? Okay, perfect. So I see some thumbs up. That means we're good to go. All right, ladies and gentlemen. So this quote I want to invite your attention to here. It says, you can't escape a prison if you don't know that you're in one. Now, you might ask yourself, what does that have to do with evaluation? Well, thank you for asking. What this has to do with evaluation, ladies and gentlemen, is that when a speaker goes up and speak their heart out, and you are given this prestigious opportunity to provide them with an evaluation, this is a significant responsibility. And if you are not giving them a decent evaluation to cause them to recognize where they may have gone wrong or what they've done well and they could continue to do, if you have not given them proper feedback, you're doing them a disservice and injustice. And they could be in a prison, as it were, so to speak. And you, given that opportunity, didn't give them an opportunity to get out. And so it is for you as the evaluator. If you are not properly equipped to give an evaluation, and you're tasked with the role of an evaluator, then you're probably going to fumble your way through, not recognizing that you are in that same prison and you're not able to deliver an effective evaluation. And so that's the reason why we're speaking about this quote. So we want to take our evaluators out of that state so that they in turn can make sure that our speakers are not left behind those bars. Now, let us look on the role of the evaluator in a little bit more detail. So the evaluator is responsible to provide an honest reaction in a constructive manner. And you will note that those words are bold and underlined. And you ought to use the evaluation guidelines. And if you use the evaluation guidelines, you're going to realize that you're going to deliver an effective evaluation at all times if you abide by the guidelines. You want to remember that you're not a judge or an authority on speaking and leadership. And I do know that, of course, there are lots of persons who have vast experience and they consider themselves, you know, the cream of the crop. But you want to recognize that you're giving your own reaction to the speaker's leadership role and or speaking or leadership efforts. So you are not going and judging a contest, you're just giving feedback to the speaker. You're not trying to tell the speaker whether they pass or they failed. You're trying to give them feedback that is going to help them to grow. Okay? The evaluation is very important to recognize that it is your opinion and your opinion only. Others may share it, but it is your opinion and not the be all end all on a particular matter. Okay? And just want to reiterate before we move from this slide, the constructive part of the evaluation. When you give the feedback, you want to make sure that you're offering suggestion as to how to do something better if you thought that it wasn't done correctly. And so you don't want to say to the person, that was not done properly, and move on. You want to offer a suggestion as to how they might do it better. Okay. Okay. So let's talk briefly about who benefits from the evaluation. So first of all, ladies and gentlemen, up front, our speaker is the main beneficiary of the evaluation. Our speaker went and prepared and came up and gave it their all. And you know, if it is that this is your first ever speech, what it took for you to get up there and give that presentation. And so you definitely want to get the best feedback that you can possibly get, and the feedback that will help to elevate you and cause you to actually want to do this again, as opposed to being terrified and thinking that you probably made a mistake and you never ever will ever do this again. So our speaker is our primary beneficiary, but not only is our speaker the beneficiary, our audience also benefits tremendously, because the audience would have heard the presentation and then the audience is now hearing the feedback. The audience is benefiting double fold. Okay. And then of course, when you give those awesome evaluation, you become the best evaluator. And so the evaluator benefits tremendously because the evaluator gets an opportunity to practice and analyze and listen and pay attention. And after that, the evaluator gets an opportunity to deliver that evaluation report by virtue of giving a small speech. So there are tremendous benefits from the evaluation: speaker, audience, and of course, our evaluator themselves. Now let's move it right along, ladies and gentlemen. Let's take a look on some of the principles that we want to adhere to when we are giving an evaluation. And it's plain and simple, ladies and gentlemen. If you are given the responsibility to provide an evaluation for a speaker, you want to make sure that you turn away from all distractions so that the speaker has your 100% attention. You must observe and listen. You're paying keen attention to everything that the speaker is saying and doing so that you can give that honest, remember that honest opinion that we spoke about. If you are distracted on your phone, you're not going to be able to give an honest feedback because you didn't see everything and you didn't hear everything. So you have to tune in 100%. You need to also look at the objectives of the presentation, because there are several nuances that are in keeping with some presentations and projects. Okay. So you need to make sure that you are fully up to speed. You would have gotten the objectives from the speaker ahead of time. So you want to address those in your evaluation, making sure that you indicate whether or not the speaker met and how they did as it relates to these objectives. And most importantly, ladies and gentlemen, you need to use, we call it the sandwich technique, but the commend, recommend, and commend method. This has been around for quite some time. Very, very powerful. You start with the positive and you end with the positive. I took on a new strategy, which I learned from John Ribeiro. It's called the 3G, and we talk about what is good, we talk about where you could grow, and we talk about what we thought really glowed. And in a sense, it is still that commend, recommend, commend method. It's just a matter of using the 3G slogan, which I like very much. And that's what I've been using pretty much. You can, of course, derive your own, or you can take this one. It's free for the taking. You also want to consider the capability of the speaker. So you want to recognize if the speaker is speaking for the very first time, or the speaker is a competition level speaker who is speaking, or who has been speaking rather, to various audiences all over the place, and so on and so forth. So this is going to be a consideration when you're giving the evaluation. And of course, this also is very important. You want to make sure that you're using a meaningful language and not just some regular terms like the cliche good and great and excellent, right? We want to get more descriptive when we're speaking about the speaker's presentation, and colorful, so that your evaluation is more impactful. They can see clearly what you're saying. So these are some of the principles that we want to adhere to. And if we use very simple, very succinct, if we keep with these principles, we're going to be able to deliver powerful evaluation to our speakers to help them to learn and grow and elevate as they progress in their speaking journeys. Now let's look on what to say, ladies and gentlemen. So what we're doing is, again, we're providing immediate feedback. So recognize that that feedback is going to be right away. It's not like you're going to have time to go away and prepare this. You're giving that feedback immediately, okay? Remember, I mentioned earlier about the constructive aspect of the feedback. You're going to make sure that you're giving methods for improvement. So if you're talking about how the speaker utilized the speaking area, if you're mentioning that the speaker stood still, you want to encourage them to move about purposefully, okay? And encourage them as to say one thought here and then move there, say another thought and then move there, that kind of thing. You want to tell them perhaps try the triangle approach, okay? Move to the front, move to the right, etc. and back, okay? So you want to give methods for improvement and not just point out something that didn't go well and leave it at that. And of course, ultimately, remember that when a speaker goes up, you want to make sure that you're encouraging the speaker to go back again. So when they leave, after your evaluation rather, the speaker should have a decent sense of self-esteem and looking forward to going and polishing up a couple of things, strengthen the weak areas, and they're raring to go to come back to the podium to deliver a next presentation. That is what should be coming out of your evaluation. Okay, now let's take a look on how to say. Okay, remember we said that we don't want to use the regular, oh, that was so good, that was great, that was excellent. We want to get a little bit more descriptive, okay? And these are a couple of, just a few examples, right? If you're talking about someone's delivery, you could say, you know, the delivery is eloquent or it's articulate. And I'm sure that this is by no means exhaustive. This is just a small list, a very, very small sample, but it's just to give you an idea of what we're talking about. Okay, talk about an opening or a conclusion, could be punchy or riveting or gripping. Okay, some of those more descriptive terms, use of emotions, breathtaking, etc., etc. Message could be thought-provoking. Okay, and these are some of the ways that we're saying that you want to be giving your evaluation and describing the presentation, different aspects of the presentation. And as you can see clearly here on the elements of the speech aspect of the table, you can be describing different components of the speech as opposed to just rolling it all in one bundle and giving that sort of overall feedback. When you break it down and give the speaker feedback on different elements of the presentations, rather, it can be more meaningful to your speaker. Okay. All right, ladies and gentlemen, in conclusions, very simple, very short, succinct presentation. But we're going to wrap it up now just by reviewing a couple of things. We spoke about the purpose of the evaluation, and overall, ladies and gentlemen, the purpose of the evaluation is for the development of the speakers. And I believe with all my heart that feedback, evaluation really and truly is a core component, a key component of a Toastmasters journey, their learning experience, the feedback that they get. I don't want to say make or break, but I guarantee you it adds tremendously to the caliber of Toastmaster that they become, or this overall speaker that they become. Principles are key, ladies and gentlemen. If you stick to principles, you will always be on point as opposed to just going with the flow. So you want to plug your evaluation in a very simple set of principles and deliver it on point all the time. And we mentioned that very simple approach, okay? Commend, recommend, and commend. We start on a high, okay? We end on a high. But rest assured, we're not just glossing over the areas for improvement. I want to underscore that because it's a key component. We have to make sure that the point is made that the areas are there that need to be improved if they're there. But at the end of the day, we want to leave the speaker on a high note. Okay. Now, it's not what you say, but how it is said. This is very important. You can say a lot of things that mean a lot of different things. Okay. But how it is said makes a difference. Okay. Now, at the end of your evaluation, ladies and gentlemen, you do a summary. Okay. And so that you punch it home to the speaker and also the audience, but you must give a quick summary at the end of your evaluation and give the speaker an overall picture in a one short sentence of how the project went. Okay, and that is it, ladies and gentlemen. I want to thank you once more for your attention, and I trust that you found this useful, and I'm definitely open for any questions if the moderator have that set up. I'll stop sharing here if I can find my button. Oh, yes, I've already stopped.
Thank you, Samara. So we still have 2 minutes. If anyone have questions regarding the presentation content, maybe we can allow 1 or 2 questions. Otherwise, we will move on to the first practice session. I personally feel it's a lot of information over there, especially on the slide of how to say it. It's really important during evaluation, say how you said it. So, do we have any question? You can just speak up. I'm checking on my screen. If no.
Hi, Jim, I have a question, please.
Go ahead.
Thank you very much for that eloquent workshop and presentation, Samara. Could you please give us an example of commend, recommend, and commend? Thank you.
Okay, fair enough. So it's always going to be situational dependent. However, so let us say, for argument's sake, someone did a speech. Okay, they had a very clever quote at the beginning of the speech, and so you can start with that, you know, and you're commending them for starting with that quote that grip the audience and pull them in for the presentation. But then you can say to them that perhaps in this particular instance, and remember, we're just coming up with examples here, perhaps this person, though they opened with a great quote, their speech was not necessarily broken down into 3 easy parts, right? The opening, a body, and a decent conclusion. So you could recommend that they try to break their speech down in 3 parts, but then maybe they use the stage terrific, and so at the end you say, but nonetheless you mastered the use of space, and I want to say bravo, I want to commend you for that. And so it's 3 things. So you spoke about their quote at the beginning, and you told them about making their speech in 3 distinct parts so that it's easy to follow for the audience, and you ended with telling them about their use of stage. That's just one simple example, and I mean, we're just making it up as we go, but this is real. It could have definitely been like that.